This is the most must-see WWE superstar of all time, The Miz. And, well, greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time as well. But Gary, 100 pounds? 100 pounds? Hard work always wins. That is your catchphrase, and that is awesome!
I've got so many goosebumps right now just listening back to that audio. I wish I had a visual element. I'd love to show you the goosebumps on my arm. But for those of you that do not know, that is the current reigning WWE Intercontinental Champion, The Miz, Mike Mizanin, leaving that message for me. And that blew my mind. I mean, it truly blew my mind. I want to thank my cousin Jade for making that happen. I want to thank my wife for keeping such a great secret and also encouraging me to film my reaction watching that for the very first time. Because if you go to my YouTube, Gary'sPodcast.com/YouTube, you can actually watch the full-length video, my reaction, the video from him. I love both of you guys, Jade, my wife. You guys are tremendous. Thank you guys so much for that. It was truly a special moment. Made my day, made my week, made my month, potentially made my entire year. It meant the world to me. So check out that video on my YouTube, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it just as much as I enjoyed putting it out there, and hearing the feedback so far has been pretty overwhelming. This week on the podcast, I interview Cliff Ravenscraft. This is a guy I've been listening to for nearly 5 years. He's been on a massive weight loss journey. And in this podcast that you're about to hear, he tells his story, how he got started on his journey, what he's done through that, the mindset, all of it. It's all there. I want you guys to take this in and check it out. I think it'll blow your mind. But before we get the podcast started, I want to tell you all about hard work always wins. It's not just my clothing line, guys. It's my mantra. I speak it, I wear it, I live it, and I'm inspired daily by this clothing. I mean, if you look at my Instagram, nearly every picture, I'm wearing one of my own shirts, okay? It's not just self-promotion. I believe this stuff. I believe in it. I would not be on here telling you about it if I didn't believe in it. But if you go to my website, hardworkalwayswins.com, I've got t-shirts, hats, hoodies, tank tops, and so much more. I'm going to continue to add more stuff on there. And I want to do something really special for you guys, the listeners of this podcast, right? So hardworkalwayswins.com, add whatever you want to the cart, and in the promo code box, type in Gary's Podcast, and I'm taking 10% off of your order. How about that? How does that sound, guys? 10% off of your order. That's all one word, Gary's Podcast, Gary'sPodcast. My way of saying thank you for all your support, whether it's here on the podcast, whether it's on Instagram, support my weight loss journey. Your guys' support means the absolute world to me. It helps me. It inspires me to keep going. So I want to show you guys some love. Put in that code, Gary's Podcast, off of your first order. Thank you so very much. And with that being said, let's get this show on the road. My interview with Cliff Ravenscraft. So, Cliff, how's your Tuesday going so far?
Dude, it has never been better, and my day gets better by the second.
Better by the second. Have you've already been to the gym today?
I have been to the gym today. I spent 90 minutes 90 minutes on the Cybex cardio whatever machine, and there's a likelihood I could end up going back to the gym tonight just for fun.
I love it, man. I love it. That's one of the things I was going to bring up, but we'll do it right now. I see you're going multiple times a day in many instances, and how's that working out for you?
Well, the thing is when I go to the gym and I get my heart rate beating a minimum of 65% of my maximum heart rate, but I like to get it up into about the nice 80-85% of my maximum heart rate. Bumping into the 90% sometimes from here and there. But once I get my heart rate going, dude, after about 15-20 minutes, I have so many endorphins. I have just so much of a high that my mind is going a mile a minute. I'm listening to Tony Robbins material while I'm working out, or I'm listening to a podcast, or I'm listening to something that inspires me, my daily affirmations. I've got thoughts running through my head about all the things that I want to do for clients and conversations I'm going to have with them on one-on-one mentoring calls. I have all sorts of ideas for my topics, for my talks that I'm giving at the Free the Dream conference that I'm hosting later this year. When I'm at the gym, I am at my best. And it's very rare and it's very few and far between when I go to the gym and I start working out where I'm like, when is this over?
No, I feel it. The thing is, on one end, I get it because I know, like when I finish up, we'll talk about the stairs in a little bit because I know you're big on that now. There, in some instances, kind of like when you finish up, you almost feel like, man, I could just go for another hour or 2 hours. I have. You have. Yeah, that's
my longest workout was that's not true. My longest workout was 9.5 hours straight. And I do that about 3 or 4 times a year, but that's a 100-mile bike ride.
Wow.
But at the gym, my longest workout is 2.5 hours.
That's incredible. I totally get it. I totally get it. I guess the other part where I'm kind of questioning it is, I know that you lead quite a busy life, and I wonder where you fit that into your time. And for folks that don't know, that may not be familiar with you, I'm talking with Cliff Ravenscraft. He is best known as the podcast answer man. Cliff, I've been following your content for nearly 5 years now. I've actually listened and consumed many of your content on the gym or at the gym, on the treadmill, on the stairs. So I know, kind of listening to your show, the Cliff Ravenscraft show, and before that, Podcast Answer Man and Pursuing a Balanced Life, and all these shows that you've done, I've heard in many instances how busy you are and how much stuff you do. So I wonder where you find that balance and how you make it work.
Well, it's real simple. We all have the same 24 hours every single day. And for me, back in November 2014, I weighed 272 pounds.
Wow.
And at that moment in time, I made a decision. I was going to work out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. And everything that I just told you, everything that has been communicated from my mouth about my enjoyment and love of going to the gym,
right?
None of that existed back then.
Yeah.
So three and a half years ago, the thought of going to the gym, it was kind of like, and going to the gym the first few times, I felt like I was going to pass out and throw up within the first 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It was completely different back then. And the thing is, though, is I said to myself, and I made a commitment to a friend of mine, and then I told the entire world, and then I was on the hook for it because I told the entire world, hey,
yep,
I'm making a commitment. I'm going to work out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. And I even communicated that's minimum of 45 minutes every day. And as a result of that, I made a decision that it just has to happen.
Yep.
Now, I had a huge benefit going for me that when I started my business in January 2008, I started this business with zero debt.
Yep.
And it's been profitable since year one. It wasn't quite as profitable as I'd like the first year. But the thing is from late 2009 through 2010, my financial income had skyrocketed year to year. And I had enough financial freedom and flexibility and margin in my life that allowed me to take pretty much all of 2015 off. So right. I decided, okay, November 2014, I'm going to work out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. After the holidays were over, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, I said, you know what? I have placed my work as my number one priority in life above everything,
yep,
including my health. And I know that for me, I'm a person who is a little obsessive compulsive, and I can tend to go to extremes. And so I knew one thing that I wanted to do was to live up to this commitment that I made. And so I said, I'm going to now make my health and physical fitness my number one priority in life, and my business is going to be the last priority in my life, literally the last. And I did some work in 2015. Within the first 9 months, I probably worked about 4 hours a week. After the first 9 months, I picked it up and worked more like a 30 to 40 hour week because I felt like I had I felt like after 9 months of 2015, I had a really good control over this commitment. But here's what I did is I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to make that my life. I'm going to make that my job. I'm going to take control of my physical health and fitness. And so I was going to the gym for not just 45 minutes a day, but sometimes an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. I was doing an hour of 3 days a week. I started in January 2015, hired a personal trainer.
Right.
And so 3 days a week I was working with a personal trainer for an hour, and I would do an hour of cardio before my weightlifting, strength training with my personal trainer.
Right.
And I was just doing that 6 days a week, every week, and I got it to where it was a routine. And I did that because I knew that what would happen is I would take it and stretch my physical fitness, my physical health, and my time in the gym. I would make that so much of my priority that when I decided to go back and ease myself into a work schedule, that bouncing back would be more of like the lifestyle that I wanted to live in my health and fitness while still working. And I'm happy to say that ever since I started going back to work, September 2015, my health and physical fitness has still been number one. There are times when okay, I have a very busy day. I'm looking at my schedule of all the things that I've got going on in my day.
Yeah.
And dude, the gym is number one above any of those. And so I'd rather, if worst came to worst, of course, this isn't going to happen because I've got my schedule all around. But Gary, you and I have had this podcast scheduled for what, 2-3 weeks, maybe even longer?
Correct.
And if it got down to it, and man, I had an appointment to go do something for my daughter, and I had an appointment to go do this, and then I had this, and then I've got a couple other things can't be moved tonight.
Sure.
And the only time for me to work out was between 4 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. I'm gonna be writing Gary, say, dude, I know that I promised you, but I'm sorry, I did not get to the gym this morning. I have to cancel and reschedule. That's just what it is, because that my time in the gym is more important than anything else in my business. And so I'd have to go and look at the least priority of something else in my business, and I'd have to bump it to put. However, that doesn't happen.
Right.
And the reason why is because guess what? Most people in the world, they tend to sleep in as late as they possibly can. And what they do is they say, hey, I've got, I need 30 minutes to get up, brush my teeth, floss, put some deodorant on, and put my contacts in, put some clothes on, and hit out the door for work or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Well, guess what, man? If I don't have to be at work or in the office until 9 a.m., if I get up at 4:30 in the morning, guess what I have? Lots of margin.
Plenty
There's
of time.
a lot of things you can do between 4:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock in the morning. And so that's what I do. I get up at 4:30 a.m. every single morning. My commitment is to be up and out of bed by 5 a.m. without any question, Monday through Friday, and I am. And so that gives me several hours to get a workout in. And question is, how on earth do you get it? I mean, people say, well, gosh, Cliff, health and fitness, it's all great and good. But, man, your sleep is important, too. Dude, I went to bed at 7 o'clock p.m. last night.
Wow.
So I don't always go to bed at 7 p.m., but last night I did.
Yeah.
And so usually – and I'd love to go – by the way, I'd love to go to bed at 7 p.m. every night. But most of the time I'm in bed – I'm usually in bed by 9 p.m., 10 p.m. usually at the latest. Yeah. So I'm still getting plenty of sleep. And I will tell you that I only need about 4.5 to 5.5 hours sleep most of the time. I'm always grateful. I always plan for 8 hours of sleep, but I've never allowed the fact that I was up until midnight to keep me from getting up at 4:30 in the morning.
No, I respect that, man. I mean, when you start a weight loss journey, it's all or nothing, I think. I mean, if you're not all in, I don't think you're ever going to succeed, right? I mean, there's no way if you don't put all of it in. I mean, just think about like your business as well. I mean, if you didn't go all in, if you didn't leave that insurance gig and go all in, you wouldn't be where you're at today.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say about the whole all or nothing mentality is the fact that you have to give yourself some flexibility for screwing up and messing up every now and then.
Sure.
So I told you basically that 3.5 years ago I made a commitment. I was going to work out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to think that there has never been a time in 3.5 years where I missed 6 days every single. So I will tell you there was one time that I was traveling for a trip, and it was literally 3 hours of sleep, and then I got it was all day travel, and then it's super crazy. And so it wasn't a Sunday, which is normally my day off. And was there a day where I only worked out 5 days that week? Yeah, sure. There was a time when I had an upper respiratory infection and it was turning into bronchitis, and I went to the doctor and he gave me this shot and this other stuff, and he says, listen, you really should rest and give your body some time to relax for the next 3 or 4 days. And so was there a day where I only worked out 2 or 3 days that 1 week? Yeah. But do I consider that to be a break in my commitment? Absolutely not. I mean, overall, the times when I mess up and I don't do a full 6 days, they're so few and far between, and you got to allow yourself to have some flexibility. The one thing is that my commitment isn't that, hey, I will never mess up. My commitment is that, hey, my identity, I am, when you ask who is Cliff Ravenscraft, he's the guy that's actually going to the gym 6 days a week. It's just as part. I will tell you, it's just as likely that I'm going to the gym that I'm going to wake up and brush my teeth.
Yeah,
and it's very rare that I ever go a day without brushing my teeth. Has it ever happened in my adult lifetime? A handful of times, maybe.
Sure,
but I don't. To me, it comes just as naturally. But it did. I just want to say, for everyone who's listening, I want to explain this. The first few weeks that I went to the gym, it was absolute pure willpower that got me to the gym. It was the accountability of a mentor that I did not want to let down. And it was also my reputation on the line, because I had told, it's very seldom that I go out on a limb and I say, guys, listen, I'm making this commitment and this is what I'm going to live up to. And I mean this.
Right.
And I just didn't want people to say, well, that Cliff, he's a wishy-washy kind of guy. And so for the first 3 to 4 weeks going to the gym, it was a huge pain to get there. Almost always, I'm like, within the first month, almost always in November 2014 and half of 2014 in December, it was almost always, man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And I'm like, but I have to do this. I made a commitment. I'm going to do this. And almost every single time I'd get there, and about 20 minutes into it, it's like, I got this.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did this. And by the end, about 9 out of 10 times, I'm like, yes, I'm so glad I did it. Now, there were times where during the first 4 weeks of those workouts that I literally was looking at the clock every 15 minutes, like every 5 minutes. It's like,
Sure.
Oh my gosh, 40 more minutes, oh man, 35 more minutes. Oh man, 30 more. And I'm like counting down, looking the clock. It's just like, this is a pain in the rear. That happened every now and then.
Yeah.
Now here's what happened. After about 30 days, the next 30 days, so the second 30 days into this commitment, it was never a question like, oh my gosh, am I going to work out today? It's just like, okay, when am I going to fit this in?
Yeah.
And there were times when I put it in the morning. There were times when I put it in the evening. I always enjoyed it more if I put it in the morning, every single time. However, there were times when it just made sense in my schedule at the time for me to do it in the evening. And I did. I was like, that. It's like, this is who I am. This is my identity. It was less willpower and just more, it became a little bit more routine. Now, I will tell you that in the third 90 days, is actually by the end of the third 90 days. So 90 days into my journey of guaranteed workouts 6 days a week, every week, I was purely addicted. And
Yeah.
I have been addicted to working out since then.
Wow. No, I get that feeling, I mean, when you start out, you think, God, how long am I going to last? And then by the time you go through it, you're ready to do more and you want to do more and constantly. I want to go backwards a little bit though. I want to ask you about prior to starting your journey, were you always a bigger guy all your life?
Most of my adult life, yes. Of course, I look back when I was like in my early 20s. I've got pictures of myself water skiing, and I remember thinking of myself as being heavy then.
Sure.
And I look at those pictures today, and it's like, man, what I wouldn't give to have my body look like that today, because it was me water skiing without a shirt on. But I was overweight even in my 20s. But going all the way back to I'd say my mid 20s and up, I've always been overweight. And I would say for the last 25 years, I would say extreme obesity. So,
Sure.
being like, if you calculate BMI, your body mass index, absolutely have been in the obese category for most of my adult life.
Yeah, and then what was one of the things I like to talk with everybody is that kind of aha moment where you notice, all right, now is the time to make that change. Do you have like a particular moment or a memory or a picture you saw or something that is just what struck the nerve for you?
So what happened to me is after I left my career in insurance to start my own business, I worked around the clock nonstop, 7 days a week for 9 months in 2008.
Right.
Didn't do anything outside of the house. I was literally inside the house working nonstop. Occasionally I might go out to dinner with the family, but it was literally 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week for 9 months in 2008. Then after the first 9 months in 2008, the final 3 months, I decided to take Sundays off, but I just increased the number of hours that I worked the other 6 days, which I was already working a lot.
Yeah.
Fast forward to January 2019, so after my first year of doing business full-time self-employed, working myself literally to death, I ended up in the hospital with a massive gallstone problem and was in the hospital for 2 weeks. And as a result of some mix-ups there with different surgeries that I was supposed to have, if it wasn't for me standing up for my rights as a patient and not signing a document until I talked to a doctor, they almost killed me while I was there.
Wow.
And so I was at my heaviest then as well. I was probably in my mid 270s. And when I got out of the hospital there, I'm like, okay, something's got to change. And so I began walking. I started doing the 10,000 steps a day program. It's just, let me just start walking. I got myself a cheap pedometer and started tracking it every day. This is before the Fitbit ever came out.
Yeah.
And I just did that. And what happened was I started listening to a podcast called Fitness Rocks at the time. It's no longer available anywhere. But I was listening to it, and it was a doctor who read medical studies, medical journals, and reported what the latest news and information is about these studies and what they say about exercise and diet. And I learned about the Mediterranean style diet of what to eat in that part, what they eat in that part of the world, the Mediterranean part of the world. These are the longest living people in the world. They eat lean meat, fish, chicken, whole grains, nuts, beans, just normal foods, fruits and vegetables. But anyway, I started eating that kind of food, just tracking my calories and just walking. And I think at one point I had gotten all the way down to 212 pounds was the lowest that I'd gone. So I'd gone from the 270s down to 212. And what happened is over the years, I kind of went up and down. I got out of it. I'd go 9 months and I'd lose a lot of weight, and then I would stop for various different reasons, different excuses, different traveling and all this other stuff. I maybe got sick. And then once I got out of the routine, I had that all or nothing attitude.
Yep.
And just the whole, break in the streak caused me to say, well, I've already did this. I might as well just go ahead. And next thing you know, I'm going back to eating the ways that I used to eat, and
Sure.
I'm not working out anymore. And I had a couple false stops and starts over the years. And it was November 2014. And, I just felt like there's something I'm supposed to be doing with my life that inspires people. I feel like my life is devoted to creating content that entertains, educates, encourages, and inspires other people. And specifically, I want to encourage people to become more of who God created them to be.
Sure.
And the problem I had was I was speaking in Colorado Springs, Colorado at one of Michael Hyatt's events. And 2 weeks earlier, I had just bought a brand new suit and just had it custom fit. And it came the day for my talk. And between the 2 weeks that I purchased it and the day that I talked, I put my suit on that morning. I already couldn't button the jacket.
Wow.
And so it just had this huge wave of just feeling frustrated with myself and feeling so unhappy about this. And the problem I had was I got on the stage, and of course I wasn't being paid to speak about my weight loss journey or anything like that. I was being paid to speak about what podcasting can accomplish for those who are looking to build their personal brands. And I did that. And obviously I have a pretty compelling story to share in that realm.
Definitely.
And so the audience loved it. But afterwards, I had so many people come up to me and say, Cliff, oh my gosh, I can't begin to tell you. I've been following you for years, and I'm so inspired, and I want to be able to one day live the life that you're living. You know, that's my goal. And when I think about it, it's like I look in the mirror and all I see is this big, huge 272-pound guy who is not taking care of himself. I'm in Colorado Springs, Colorado, so I'm in a higher elevation. I walk up a set of stairs and I feel like my heart's going to pound out of my chest. This is not how I was designed to live, and I felt like a fraud. And so that was the point where enough was enough. And my friend Ken Davis said, Cliff, I'd like to personally offer to mentor you. Now, Ken was just turning 70 years old when he told me this.
Wow.
But that, earlier that morning, he had ran 3 miles up a mountain. And he told me his story of his weight loss. And he says, Cliff, I'd be willing to mentor you if you'd make some pretty significant commitments in your life. And he said, and by the way, Ken happened to be Michael Hyatt's business partner for these conferences, and very popular guy in his own right. And he says, but here are the commitments. Number one, I want you to read my book called Fully Alive so that you know my story and what motivates me for staying physically fit. The other thing I want you to do is I want you to read a book called Younger Next Year so that you'll learn the biology of exercise and what happens in your body when you're exercising. It'll get you a whole lot more excited about going to the gym than if it was just checking out what your number is on the scale every day. And he says in that book, it's going to suggest that you work out 6 days, make a commitment to working out 6 days a week every week for the rest of your life. And I'd like you to make that commitment as well. And he says, if you can do all of that, there's still one more. In 6 months from now, I want you to complete a triathlon with me in Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm like, I was at a point where I was willing to do anything. And I liked, believe it or not, the one thing that stood out of all of those commitments was just that whole phrase, I will commit to working out 6 days a week, every week, for the rest of my life. And it was something about the phrase for the rest of my life that I think I was missing. I don't know what it was I lost a lot of weight before. I made commitments. I'm going to work out. But I never had made before that this was something for the rest of my life. No matter how far, no matter what may happen to try to derail me, whether I get sick and the doctor tells me I need 3 or 4 days off, or if if my eating gets a little bit out of control every now and then, this is a commitment for the rest of my life. I'm making it to myself, to my family, and I'm making this public so that the world knows.
No, that's really huge because I communicate with so many people, primarily on Instagram. That's where I've kind of become involved in the weight loss community. And I see so many that, they kind of take this attitude like there's a deadline on a weight loss journey. Well, I only lost a pound this week. Or everybody's like in kind of this rush to hit their goals right away. And I think it's so key what you're saying about making that commitment for the rest of your life, because guess what, guys, this is a lifestyle, and it's not overnight, it's not quick, it's for the rest of your life, and you got to be in it for the long game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, to another point you made, you talked about starting at 272. I know when I started, I was actually 372, and to hear you kind of talk about the way you felt at 272, I'm currently sitting at 275 right now, and I know how much better I feel now than I ever felt at 372. And it just goes to show, I think people at all different sizes, once you start the working out, that's when it feels better. You can look at people and think, oh, they have it made, they must be feeling so good because they weigh less than I do. But I think if they're not working out, deep down, they may not feel so great, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So And to lose 100 pounds, I mean, that's huge. I mean, I have a heck of a lot of respect, even if you lose 10, 15 pounds, but 100, I mean, that's such a big deal, man. I mean, you've been on just an incredible ride.
Yeah, so here's the deal. I'm currently sitting at 204 right now.
Okay.
Because over the past summer, I actually got back into eating some pretty nasty foods. I started eating some sugar and I stopped counting calories because it's just like I would start counting calories in the morning and I'm like, I'm going to eat really good. I'm going to eat really healthy. And then I would be tempted with some kind of sugary snack in the middle of the day. And by that time, that 560 calorie chocolate chunk cookie put me over my calorie budget.
Yep.
And I know I'm still going to eat dinner tonight. So why start counting? Why continue to count calories? I'm already over. And then that night I would eat dinner. And because I'm not counting calories anymore, I'm eating, a second serving plus whatever dessert might be available. And I was still working out. Trust me, my cardio health, top notch, man.
Yeah.
But I was putting the body fat back on. And so I actually got all the way back to November of last year. I was already back up to 232 pounds. And there's something inside of me. I have it's this internal thermostat. Unfortunately, it was set to 230. And anything over 230 is like, dude, no, this ain't happening. And so November 1st, I'm like, okay, I'm turning this around. Right. I'm getting serious about my calories and all this other stuff. And so I got back to where I said I'm going to start counting my calories on a consistent basis, and I'm going to start limiting the types of foods that I eat, and which means cutting back the sugar. And I said I'm going to only eat sugar every now and then. Sure. I'm not going to cut it out forever. I'm going to keep myself from eating it all the time. I'll allow myself to have a sugary snack once per week, or every now and then, but never more than once per week. And then I said, but I never anticipate allowing myself to have sugar 2 weeks in a row. And so I went all the way through, and I got into December 24th was the first time I had sugar in like weeks and weeks and weeks. Wow. And on Christmas Eve, it was at my parents' place, and it was afternoon lunch, or we were having like an afternoon dinner there. And after dinner, I had 2 slices of pumpkin pie with whipped cream and 2 slices of this vanilla cake with caramel icing. And I mean, did it taste good? Oh, it was good. So good. Yeah, it sounds great. And what happened was about 2 hours later, I feel sick to my stomach. Sure. I've got hypoglycemia, so my insulin levels are really high inside of my bloodstream. My blood sugar levels are going really low. And of course, when your blood sugar levels are low and you've got insulin in your body instantly wants it either wants one of two things. It wants to go to sleep, or it wants you to eat more things to get your sugar levels back up. And usually it wants you to eat the cruddy stuff. Yeah. And so I decided, I pretty much just waited it out, and I went home and I went to sleep early that night. I'm like, this is Christmas Eve. Yeah. And I felt lethargic. I felt sick to my stomach. And I ended up going to bed early on Christmas Eve.
It's crazy.
I mean, come on, this is so stupid. And so I woke up the next day, and I'm like, this is, I'm not going to do that again.
Right.
And a couple weeks later, it was in January, I had studied a Tony Robbins piece of material, and I learned the actual root word and the real meaning of the word decide. Have you ever heard of this?
No, I've not heard of that.
All right. So a lot of us we have this idea that we're making decisions, right?
Right.
And most of us, we have no clue what the word decide means. So the word decide has the root word side, C-I-D.
Okay.
Okay. And you've probably heard of pesticide or suicide.
Sure.
Pesticides, of course, means to kill pests.
Yep.
Suicide is to kill oneself.
Yep.
Okay. Well, decide is when you are actually looking at a bunch of different options, or you're thinking of something that you're going to do. Once you decide, you're literally killing any other possibility other than what you've just said.
Okay. That's strong.
So you're putting to death any other possible outcome.
Never thought about it in that way.
So anything other than that is, I'll try to do something.
Sure.
I'd like to do something. But if you actually say, I've decided, that means you've put to death any other possibility.
Right.
So on my podcast, I was explaining this, and I sit there and I said, I said, I will not use the word decide anymore unless I mean it. And I said, and guys, I'm here to tell you right now, I'm making a decision on the spot. I am deciding right now. I can tell you, I made a decision November 14th, 2014, and the power in that decision was the words "for the rest of my life." I will work out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. That is now my identity. There is no other possibility for Cliff Ravenscraft. I do not exist as who I am. I am out of integrity, if you will, with my identity if I do not work out 6 days a week. That's who I am. All right?
Strong.
And I said in my podcast, I am making a new decision today, and it is just as bold as what I said on November 14th, 2014. I am deciding, as of today, I will never eat sugar again in my lifetime.
Wow.
Never. And that was back in January. I have not had sugar since Christmas Eve 2017. And that will be the final time in my lifetime. If I live to be 110 years old, I will never eat sugar again.
That is bold. You're a brave man,
bold.
Cliff. I love it though. I respect that. That is bold.
And you know what? Due to some other things that I've learned, it's actually much easier than you might think.
Really? Elaborate on that a little bit for me if you can.
Well, first of all, I want to let you know that I did 100 days in March of 2017. So way before I made this commitment, I already tested a 100-day period of time without sugar. So I said, listen, I'm going to go 100 days. And I went 100 days with no sugar, no artificial sweetener, no bread, no pasta, and no deep fried foods.
Wow.
So I gave up 5 things for 100 days in March of 2017 is when I started that. And I went through it and I'm like, I am never going back to sugar after this. After 100 days, this is so easy. Why would I ever go back? And of course, after the 100 days was over, guess what happened?
You were right back into it.
It was within 2 or 3 weeks, I was right back into it, and it was just as out of control as before the 100 days.
This sounds to me, I'm sorry to cut you off. This sounds to me a lot like my McDonald's addiction. Let me tell you, Cliff, we're talking for the very first time today ever, other than social media. I had this incredible addiction to McDonald's where I was going every single day, 5 days a week on my way home from work. I have a 70-mile round trip commute to work. Yep. And on my way home, I was stopping at McDonald's each and every day. I could tell you my order. I had 3, sometimes 2, but 3 McDoubles. I'd add the Big Mac sauce on it. I have a 4-piece chicken nugget and a medium chocolate milkshake. And I ate that every single day, 5 days a week, going home to my wife like nothing ever happened, eating dinner. And this was just a vicious cycle that I was living. And as of right now, I am clean from McDonald's and actually clean from Taco Bell, Burger King, and Wendy's. Those were the 4 that I blocked 100%, as well as soda, now for 13 months. And I still wonder to this day, it's almost like a ticking time bomb. Like, when is that moment going to happen where I may be tempted to slip back? You know what I mean?
All right. Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever been tempted in how many months? 13?
13 months.
First of all, congratulations. That's freaking awesome.
Thank you.
So let me ask you this. In the last 13 months, what is the greatest what is the greatest temptation you've had in any one of those restaurants? Have you been tempted on a level that is very high?
I actually would say no. I mean, I've had thoughts of, it was mainly the McDonald's because that Big Mac sauce is super deadly up here, brother. And that was always the one that would stick in my mind, but I have not had a moment where I've slipped back into it.
So okay. Now I want to tell you, you said yourself, based upon your language that you just gave.
Yes.
My guess is that without the proper training in how to handle the situation, there's a good chance that if you were tempted on a very high level, which means that, let's just say you're on a road trip with 4 friends, and the 4 friends are like sitting there, it's like, listen, we've got to stop and get something to eat, and you're not the one driving, and by golly, they're going to stop and run in and use the restroom. They're going to let's take a 45-minute break, and they're all going to go in there and they're going to get themselves a chocolate shake, a medium chocolate shake, and a couple McDoubles, and a couple French fries and stuff like that. And they're going to say, you know what? Hey, I'm buying. Get whatever you want. If that happened to you this next weekend? What's going to happen? What do you think would happen?
I'd tell him, get me a bottle of water. Honestly, I tell people I'm overstocked on patience. I have so much patience now. I really believe that if you told me, Gary, look, thank you so much for listening over the years. Why don't we sit down and have dinner? But I really want some McDonald's. I'll give you all the Big Macs or McDoubles you want. I would tell you thank you very much. But honestly, I truly believe that I could sit down in that restaurant, and I've not even so much as entered the parking lot for McDonald's. But I feel like if we were there right now and we went in there, that I would be able to not have it. I really, truly believe that.
Tell me how. Tell me why.
Because I think of the days where I used to wake up in immense pain for my feet, ankles, knees, my back. Just getting out of bed, Cliff. This is not even after a night of hanging out on the town with friends or going which way or wherever. This is just literally waking up, stepping out of my bed, placing my feet on the carpet, and feeling pain shoot up into my body. Now, why? But all the years before this, I never, decided to do anything about it. It's beyond me. I tell people often that in 2014, I nearly died from cellulitis. This bacterial infection that just took over my leg was not directly because of my weight, but my weight certainly did not help the situation. And with that being said, I think back to those days where I'm sitting on the couch playing PlayStation, watching Netflix, shoveling pizza rolls down my throat. I think back to those days, and that is why I would never want to do it.
And you will succeed. You could actually sit down and watch them eat their McDoubles and drink their milkshakes and eat their French fries, and you will be. And so what I've learned, and I learned this from a Tony Robbins program as well. We have two motivating forces: pain and pleasure.
Yes.
And it's why we make the decision to do anything we do. And it's why I'm able to say with full confidence, I know for a fact I will never eat sugar again in my life.
Wow.
And I can tell you now, here's the deal. Yours is pretty easy because you just have to avoid walking into a Wendy's. You have to avoid a McDonald's and a Taco Bell. And what's the other one?
Burger King.
And Burger King.
Yeah.
So you have the ability to avoid going into the restaurant. I mean, even on the car trip, you could say, hey, guys, go on in. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to walk over to the gas station, use the bathroom there, and I'm going to sit in the car if you don't mind. I mean, you have that going for you. Now, what I've told you is I'm giving up sugar for the rest of my life. Which, by the way, I live in a house full of people who still eat sugar. So guess what's in my pantry upstairs? Sugar.
Yeah.
Guess my daughters have friends that come over and spend the night, and guess what they do? They go to the store and they buy a box of brownie mix, and they are baking brownies, and it smells, it's got the whole smell of brownies through my house. Every now and then there are cakes that come into this house. There's ice cream that comes into this house.
Right.
All these things that I love. Not to mention the fact everywhere I go, every meeting, every conference, there's all of these sweet treats everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So I'm faced all the time. But just like you, I'm able to actually stare it in the face. I can smell it.
Yep.
And I will never lie. I can tell you right now, like pumpkin pie, ice cream, cake, all of that stuff, I will not lie. There is great pleasure in that taste.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell you right now, one of my favorite sweets on this planet, there's nothing like a fresh, hot Cinnabon.
Ooh, that's strong, man. That's real strong.
All right. I'm talking about freshly baked Cinnabon that is flaky and hot.
Yep.
With the granular brown sugar and cinnamon just oozing and bubbling out of the top of it.
Yes.
And where they actually are drizzling on the amazing wet white velvet icing on top of it. And just the smell of that. And I'm not talking about the little tiny one. I'm talking about the big jumbo.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And of course, when I order it, what do you always have to have? You need an extra cup or two of icing.
Of course.
So you can dip that thing.
Ooh,
right?
Man.
I can tell you right now, you could put 5 of those things in front of me. I would never in a million years touch it. You could offer me $100,000 to eat one of those things right out of the oven. I will not eat it for $100,000. And it's for the same exact reason of exactly what you just said. When I think of eating that, now the thing is, I'm granting it. There's pleasure.
Sure.
There's but that pleasure is so momentary. That pleasure is 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. I might be able to stretch it out for a full 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, me and this Cinnabon, we could have a relationship. but the reality, that relationship's not going to last any more than 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's so temporary.
And the thing is it's great pleasure. I know the feeling and the sensation of the rush of sugar to my brain.
Yes.
And not only that, but the smell is linked to so much pleasure in my past even.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when I taste it, it reminds me of when I was a kid and I would wake up and my mom would make those little Pillsbury, cinnamon muffin or cinnamon rolls or whatever. So there's all kinds of pleasure. But here's the thing. When I see it, I acknowledge the fact that there's pleasure there.
Sure.
But all I focus on, I acknowledge the pleasure, but I never focus on the pleasure. I only focus on the pain.
Okay.
So here's why you could offer me $100,000 to eat this amazing Cinnabon that I just described, and I will not eat it. Number one, if I eat it, I've told tens of thousands of people around the world that I'll never eat sugar again in my life.
Yes.
And automatically, I will have proven those who said Cliff could never do it right.
Definitely.
And I'm not willing to do that. Number two, I know for a fact that I have been diagnosed with hypoglycemia. I know that I'm going to eat it. I'm going to feel great for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
Yep.
And about an hour and a half to 2 hours from now, I know for a fact I will be sick to my stomach and I will be ready to pass out unless I eat more sugar.
Yeah. It's reliant.
Okay.
You need to have that next step, obviously. Yeah.
I'm committed to eating within a calorie budget that is necessary for my body to thrive. And I know exactly how many calories are in a Cinnabon. And I'm sorry, ain't nobody got that many calories free in their life.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
It's no different to me than saying, you know what, I'm going to go out and write a check for this thing that I want to purchase. And it's the whole idea of, okay, I know I only have $200 in my bank and this thing is $400. Let me just go ahead and write the check for $400.
Yeah.
There's real problems when you write checks for $400 when you only have $200 in your bank account.
Big problems.
Right? And exactly. And the same thing happens with calories. You can't be eating calories you don't have in the bank.
No.
So it's like I've lost over 100 pounds. And I've put on more than 35 pounds of muscle in the last 3.5 years. All right. I am not going to let one sugary snack, and it's 30 minutes of pleasure if it lasts that long,
right?
To derail my hard work. Sure. All right. And it's not just focusing on all of the pain, but what about the pleasure I will get? So I told you, I acknowledge the taste and the pleasure that's there. I focus on all of the pain, but I also focus on some pleasure. But I never focus on the pleasure that I would get from actually consuming it. I focus on the pleasure that I will get if I deny myself that sugary snack. What pleasure will I get? Well, number one, I will be able to say, guys, let me tell you just how tempted I was. And I overcame. I actually stood up. I was the master of my body. I did not let my impulses to overtake me. I am in control. It boosts my self-confidence because I was able to make that decision. I am going to be able to continue to inspire and motivate and encourage others to do things that they don't believe is possible because, by golly, Cliff Ravenscraft went another day without sugar, proving that he can move towards this goal of never. So whenever and by the way, I'm faced with sugar almost every day.
Yeah. Almost every day.
And it's gotten to the place where most of it doesn't even faze me at all.
That's incredible.
But occasionally, now I want to tell you, I went to Social Media Marketing World last week.
Yeah.
In San Diego.
Beautiful city.
I was given an all access pass to all of the parties there, and they had this one party where they had all the free hors d'oeuvres and all this other stuff. I didn't eat any of their junk food because I had healthier food that I treated myself well at Seasons 52, and I had a nice juicy 6-ounce filet mignon cooked medium rare with some Yukon mashed potatoes. So I ate real nice human food there. So I wasn't tempted. But I will tell you that I walked past this one place where they were frying up fresh donuts and sprinkling them with powdered sugar. Now, I got to tell you, that was a trigger for me. I smelled the smell of the deep fried dough, and I could smell the powdered sugar. And I'm like, that's tempting. I'm like, it's like, I wonder if it, it's like, it's not like I'm thinking I wonder if I can get by with this, but I'm just like, man, that smells really good. Did I really have to give this up? I mean, seriously, what would it mean if I ate one donut? And
sure.
It's like, and I did not even get through the whole thought, but I got halfway through what does it really mean? I mean, what would it really mean if I allowed myself to I mean, it's been since this, and I'm like, okay, done. I acknowledge the pleasure associated with that. I acknowledge the association in my mind of the smell and how it makes me feel, and it takes me back to memories of great times in my life as a kid and all of that stuff. I acknowledge all of that. Now I'm done. Now let me focus on the pain of if I give in and go have it, and let me focus on all of the pleasure I will get if I absolutely stand here smelling it and still choose not to. And there were 2 or 3 different times in this past week where I was confronted with some of the most amazing, I mean, very expensive even, the most amazing sweet treats. And they were nothing to me. I don't know if you watch Shark Tank, but Kevin O'Leary says, as far as sugar is concerned, it's dead to me.
I love it. No, and I respect that too. I don't know. I don't know when I would be able to make that kind of commitment, but mad respect to you for being able to do that for sure.
Hey, and I just want to say this. I don't want you to hear me, and I don't want your listeners to hear me and feel like that's something that they need to do in their life.
No, I agree.
This was my decision.
Yeah.
I happen to know for me, well, first of all, unlike you and many other people, I have hypoglycemia.
Right.
So, I mean, for me to eat sugar, I know for a fact thank you God, my insulin kicks on. Yep. So I don't have diabetes, but I have the opposite problem. So my insulin kicks on. My insulin just doesn't know when to shut off.
Sure.
And so once it starts, it's like, listen, I'm dousing. We're putting this fire out.
Yeah.
And the problem is I mean, I go all the way to the place where I've never passed out and needed to be taken to the hospital, but I've passed out and I kind of just, it's like, you know what, I'm just going to lay down and go take a nap for 3 or 4 hours.
Sure. How much more weight do you want to lose? I know you said you're right around 200. Do you have a goal weight in mind, or?
Okay, so here's the deal. I've lost 27 pounds in the last 90 days.
It's incredible.
Since I've given up sugar, just so you know.
Incredible.
So I'm at the place right now, and I am on a big, huge weight loss focus at this moment in time. I've put on a lot of muscles. I'm still down over 100 pounds of fat since I first started 3.5 years ago. But I've about 35 pounds of my muscle mass, or of my body mass right now.
Yep.
Is muscle that I've put on over the years. But even with that, I've stopped building. I'm only maintaining muscle at this moment in time. Okay. I'm doing what we call cutting. I think it's called cutting. Anyway, but I'm going to the gym, only focused on cardio right now, and I am lifting, but I'm only lifting to maintain muscle mass, not to grow muscle mass. So I've lost 27 pounds in the last 90 days. I'm at 204 pounds as I weighed in this morning. I'm currently losing somewhere between right at this moment. I'm cutting down about 2 to 4 pounds a week at this moment in time. So probably by next week, this time next week, I will be under 200 pounds. And I think I'm going to go all the way down to 185.
That's my goal weight.
Yeah, so I'm going to go all the way to 185, but I'm going to also be maintaining muscle. And what I plan on doing once I get to 185, I'm going to continue. Once I hit 185, I'm going to go back into massive muscle growth, but at the same time, I'm going to be working on losing body fat percentage. So, yeah, 185 is where I'll ultimately be.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be, by the way, one day you will see me on the front cover of Men's Fitness magazine.
I'll be ready to buy it, believe me.
That's my ultimate goal. They tell me, they say, Cliff, only celebrities get on Men's Fitness magazine. I said, well, I have 3 ways that I'm going to get onto Men's Fitness magazine. I love it when people tell me my goals are impossible.
Yes.
So I sat there, I said, let me tell you how I'm going to get on there. I've got 3 different avenues. Number 1, I'll become a celebrity. Easy enough.
Sure.
I'll do it. All right. So if that doesn't work out, number 2, occasionally I've seen covers. I'm a subscriber to the magazine. I've occasionally seen them do some like 1 month where they have just an average Joe, just one of the readers that was submitted, and I'll start a social media campaign if I need to. When when I have the ripped physique that will blow people away, then I will start a social media campaign. And if that doesn't work, if I don't become a celebrity that they desperately want me on their cover, if I don't get the social media campaign to work that gets me on there, then by golly, my third option will be the option I'll go with. I'll become a billionaire. I'll buy the magazine and I'll put myself on it every month for 12 months.
I love it. Well, look, I appreciate your time so much. I respect your time, and so I want to end it with this. I've seen you post on your Instagram. Is it at Cliff EOTC? Is that correct?
Yeah, Cliff EOTC. So it's my first name, Cliff, CLIFF, and the EOTC stands for Cliff Encouraging Others Through Christ.
Love it. I've seen a lot of pictures that you posted working out with your wife, and I love that because my wife has recently started going to the gym with me. She's actually rehabbing an ACL tear. And I want you to talk about a little bit about what that means to you to have your wife there literally by your side at the gym with you working out, what that does mentally for you and the high you get from that.
Okay, so I want to say this, that over the 3.5 years, my wife has been working out with me. Well, she did about 1.5 years nonstop, maybe even 2 years.
Okay.
And then she went for like almost a year where she wasn't working out at all.
Sure.
She just started back with me February 1st. We got crazy. February 1st, we both made a commitment, not to 7 days a week. We made a commitment. We were going to work out 7 days a week. So we did every single day in February, a minimum of 1 hour every day. And Stephanie also cut out all sugar as well, just for the month of February. She's back to having sugar whenever she feels like it. But here's the deal: working out with my wife is absolutely it is the most incredible thing in the world. I was so incredibly blessed and thankful that she agreed to work out in the mornings. So I get up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm out of bed by 5. And before she was working out with me, I'm at 5:15, 5:30. I'm at the gym.
Yep.
Right. But as soon as Stephanie said, hey, I'd like to start working out again, and I want to work out, I'm willing to work out with you if we can work out our schedules. So ever since February 1st, this is what I've done. I get up, I'm out of bed by 5 a.m. I literally just hang out, do my own morning routine, sit back and relax and enjoy life from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. And then at 7 a.m., my kids leave for school. And then Stephanie and I drive to the gym. It takes us 30 minutes to get to the gym. So 7:30, we're at the gym. We spend a minimum of 1 hour there. Sometimes this morning we were there for 90 minutes. And then, we get back home. What is that? So 7:30, 8:30, 9:30. So usually 9:30, right. We're usually home. 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, we're back home. And then we have breakfast together. But man, I tell you, it's incredibly awesome to go and have a 30-minute conversation driving to the gym. Yep. And that conversation is a lot of fun and stuff like that. But there's nothing like the conversations that happen on the way home after both of us have endorphins and all the other stuff that comes from working out. There are 3 different highs that you get from working out. One is endorphins, right. And I can't remember the names of the other two, but yeah, we literally are like, whew, this is awesome. And during that, and of course, I work for myself. I have a lot of freedom and flexibility in my schedule these days.
Sure.
And my workouts are most important. So we come home, we cook breakfast together, and it's just an awesome thing. Working out with her has been a dream come true. She's my favorite workout partner in the world.
I love that. I love it. Before we go, if you could just tell people where they can find you. Obviously, you've got a lot of great content that you built over the years. And for folks that are just hearing you for the first time, where can they find you? Where do you want them to go?
Yeah, I would encourage everybody to go to cliffravenscraft.com.
Okay.
cliffravenscraft.com. I used to be, you had said earlier, I'm most widely known as the podcast answer man. And
Yes.
I would say over the past 12 years, I have been known as the podcast answer man. I've trained more than 30,000 people how to launch a podcast. However, in September of last year, I gave up that identity. Still people recognize me as that.
Yeah.
But I'm no longer teaching people how to podcast. And the next 30 years of my life, I'm devoting the next 30 years of my life to doing what Tony Robbins has done over the past 30 years. So I am very much a business mentor and life coach.
Yep.
And I want to help people change their beliefs about who they are and what they're able to achieve. I want to help them discover and break free from any limiting beliefs that are keeping them from living the lives that they were created for. I want to help people set and achieve any goal. I want to help people learn how to master their physical body, break through procrastination, discover financial freedom in life. I want to help people become more of who they are created to be. And if you want to learn more about how I do that through the content, products, and services that I create, cliffravenscraft.com.
I love it. Well, I'll end it with this, Cliff. Like I said, I've been following your content for nearly 5 years. The amount of value that you've given me and inspiration and the things that I've created based off of listening to some of your podcasts, getting inspiration and ideas, it means the world to me. So the fact that you would take 1 hour to sit here with me and come on my podcast is truly an honor. Thank you so much for your time, Cliff.
I have had a blast. Thanks so much.